right, we're halfway through the spookiest month of the year, and it's time to take yet another stab at some deep cuts. Tonight's episode of Deep Cuts is sponsored by Courtyard by Bates Extended Stay. With kitchenette, showers, and peepholes in every suite, the only thing missing from this home away from home is Mother. Courtyard by Bates Extended Stay.
Nice, man.
Thank you. And with us from
Snap.
the city of Fallen Angels is mysterious Mike Black.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Mike Black. And also with us from the home of horror is Eat Shit and Live Bill. Amanda Brass.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Happy Halloween. Can't wait to talk about what my name is.
I know. I'm excited to hear it. And then, of course, I am your horrific host, Psycho Alf Lamont. And today we're exploring surprise endings. I think the most classic surprise ending is, of course, we just were referring to it, is Psycho, right? Like that's the original, like, whoa, it's a horror movie, it's a twist, it's all these amazing things. And I think like to this day, it's hard to match sort of that surprise of like, oh. And I think it's important for us to just lay out the rules of this. So we're gonna be talking about 3 movies that have surprise endings. And it's difficult to talk about movies with surprise endings without ruining the surprise ending. Right. So let's just get it out of our systems. The Visit, The Fog, and Sleepaway Camp are the 3 movies that we're going to be covering today. If you have not seen them, or if you want to see them and you don't want to spoil the ending here, then this is not the thing for you to listen to.
Or this is the time to tap out.
Yes, this would be the time. There you go.
And come back.
That's a far better way of putting it, Mysterious Mike Black.
Thank you.
Because it hooks people to come back, and
Yes.
it gives them the opportunity.
Well, fuck these guys. Watch the movie and then come back.
No, we'll give them plenty of reason to say that later, I think.
Sure.
Yeah, for sure. So those are the 3 films that we're going to be hitting, and I kind of wanted to give us an opportunity to talk a little bit about surprise endings. Because I was watching Little Shop of Horror yesterday, the musical, right? The classic Rick Moranis version that we all know and love. And I realized that there was the original ending for Little Shop of Horrors is everybody dies and the plant takes over the world.
In the Broadway show, everyone dies.
In the Broadway show, and they filmed
and in the original B movie, yeah.
Yeah, but in the musical film version, they filmed the original ending.
Yes.
Put it in front of an audience, and the audience hated it so much that Frank Oz, who directed it, Frank Oz of Muppet fame, went back and directed an alternate ending that became the official ending of the film. And I think surprise endings risk so much by doing that to people.
Can I add something about that? Because it's a real shame that happened, because that ending is spectacular. You can see it on YouTube.
Sure.
And they did a lot of great puppet work, a lot of miniature work, practical effects stuff. But the final shot would have been fantastic on a big screen. And it's Audrey eating through the screen to attack the audience.
Classic.
And watching that on YouTube, it just will never have the same effect.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping eventually they do an alternate cut, like for an anniversary edition or something.
Some sort of re-release
that would have that, because I would love to see that on the big screen.
And I think part of the problem is Rick Moranis, because you love Rick Moranis so much. Yeah,
you don't want to see him die. No matter what.
You love both Audrey and Seymour so much in this movie that you're just rooting for them in such a special way. That
note, you're
right?
Just sold on those 2 characters.
Absolutely. And we were also talking about Rick Moranis holding a space of like dork, but like sweet earnest dork, like sweet earnest nerd. that I don't know that anybody's been able to occupy that space. We talked about like who are current dorks, right? Like who's
Oh. Well,
like yeah.
I can only speak to my generation. I don't know what the youth think today, but I would say Anthony Edwards, Goose.
Yeah.
Well, he kind of comes from that same era.
Right.
Yeah, but I would say that Anthony Edwards was slightly cooler than Rick Moranis.
Oh yeah. I mean,
You know.
Yeah, I don't think there's anyone who has been that and has been okay with that being their brand for long.
Right, like Michael
If that
Cera
makes
and
sense.
Jonah Hill come
Jay
come to mind.
Baruchel,
oh, I
you
loved
know,
him.
they all
But
just
it's so-
decided
even
screw
Seth
this,
Rogen-
I would much rather be cool.
Yeah.
But I think all of those guys at some point were just like, I don't want to be kind and loved and earnest the whole time and dorky. I want, like, Michael Cera always kind of had like a little bit of a dick thing going anyway.
Yeah.
But like Jonah Hill also had like he's just like, I'm gonna bust out of this, and Seth Rogen has as well. Like it's not all lovable earnest nerds, despite the fact that I think that especially Seth Rogen he's at his best when he's being earnest and being kind and sweet, right? Like I think there's something to anyway. We are completely off the hinge here with Little Shop of Horrors. But that's one of those movies that had that risked a lot by having what was a twist ending, and it was outwardly rejected by folks. And I was wondering if there's other movies that you guys feel kind of got a bum rap from their twist endings that we're not covering tonight.
I'm sure there are. I'm racking my brain to think of them, but
I'll simmer on mine until I'll simmer on my answer until like maybe
and then
the end.
let's
I need to think about it.
For sure.
Like M. Night Shyamalan, you can't do this without bringing up his stuff. But
of course.
I loved Unbreakable so much, except for the execution of the ending. I liked the ending, but I liked what it all led to. But just that it was a little news blurb basically about what happens to each character, I was like, I would much rather you show than tell this fascinating point in the story than just give me a little text blurb. Oh,
right.
You know, he was arrested, and that's the end of it.
Sure.
And
sure.
I felt the same way. It's not really a horror movie, but it had, I don't even know if you would call it a surprise ending, but The Truman Show.
I mean, kind of. It's got a twist at the end, like
where he goes out into the world, but it happens where the credits roll is where I was finally truly invested in the movie, and I was like, I want to see where it goes from here.
Yeah, how does Truman adapt to the real world?
Right, and how does
there definitely needed to be a Truman Show too. And I feel like Jim Carrey was so wounded that he didn't get a nomination for that he was just like, well, I need to put it behind me.
Yeah.
But there should have been a Truman Show too.
Absolutely. The world collectively, sorry, we were watching your entire
right, and now you do a reality show following Truman adapting to the real world.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. All right, well, so you brought up M. Night Shyamalan, and I'm so glad you did, because the first film that we have is an M. Night Shyamalan film, and I do want to talk a lot about M. Night Shyamalan's and his role in the twist ending and the surprise ending. So let's roll the first preview, and then we'll get into The Visit from 2015. Here we go.
All right.
This is Maria Bella Jameson. My Nana. And this is my Pop.
Grandma's hand used to hand
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. We're visiting for the week.
Miss you guys.
We're having a great time.
She'd say, baby, grandma understands.
I wanted to spend time with you for so long, Nana.
I have not seen your Nana this happy in years.
For grandma's hand.
Bedtime here is 9:30. You two shouldn't come out of your room after that.
Good night.
Good night.
What is that? Nana? What the hell was that? I think Nana's not feeling well.
Grandmother is fine.
Nana and Pop-Up are acting strange.
I knew we were gonna have this call. They're just weird people.
Hey, why is Nana staring into the well? Hi, Pop-Up! Pop-Up! Mom, there's something wrong with Nana and Pop-Up.
They're just old.
I'm just cleaning it.
What is in the shed? Nana? Are you down here?
Would you mind getting inside the oven to clean it?
Stop! Nana, stop!
All right. So The Visit. Yeah, I mean, so a few things about The Visit is one is that that M. Night Shyamalan, I always feel bad that I mispronounce it, but anyway, this is one of those films where he put up his own money. He basically put up his own house. He put up $5 million of his own money to get this made.
Wow.
Tons of studios passed on it. He did not want it to be like he didn't want to be made fun of anymore as being like ineffective in his plots and his twists. He really believed in this. Cast unknowns, did it on a small budget. Obviously, I mean, $5 million is small, right? Which is classic for horror. You can pull off horror with a small budget. And the twist is that these kids who've never met their grandparents go stay with their grandparents, and their grandparents are weird, and it just gets weirder. And then the big twist is that it's not their grandparents. They are escapees from a mental hospital who murdered their grandparents, who worked at the mental hospital, and are planning on murdering the kids.
Wow.
I mean,
Dang.
it is so
After
dark.
they scramble their fucking heads for a weekend.
Yes. Yeah. And so the old folks play all of these games with the kids, and there's a lot of like Shakespearean references in it, right? There's like moments from Richard II, and it's a very, very smart, very intense movie that plays with us on things that we are comfortable with and familiar with, right?
Yes.
So, old people are weird. It's just like, okay, sure thing, Grandma, right? We're accustomed to giving space to old folks for being a little bit eccentric, right?
And we're already a little bit afraid of them because they're closer to death.
Yes, and they even smell closer to death. Right?
I remember when I was a child at a neighborhood get together, I was looking at the snack table, which I often gravitate towards anyway, and an elderly woman grabbed a tray from the snack table, shoved it in my face, and said, "You should try one of my lady fingers." And I went, "Ah," and walked away. It was like a slow, weird scream, but it was all I could muster because I was so traumatized by the idea of that. I thought this sick bitch had labeled them lady fingers herself. I didn't know it was a standard at that sort of event.
Sure.
I've always been terrified of the elderly. I don't like watching them eat. They'd be happier in outer space on a little community by themselves. But,
like Life Force? Send them up there like Life Force.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly like Life Force. And yeah, but this movie, when I saw the preview for it, I was like, I have to see this partially because I'm fascinated by the story, and partially as proof of psychological growth that I can withstand this. You know,
Right. So yeah, I mean, it's a pretty intense movie, and it plays with you on that fear of old folks. But it does two things, right? It's not just fear of old folks. We give old folks wide berth, and we give them like okay, they can act up because they're old, right? Like certain things old people will say like we kind of brush off because they're old. That's one group of people that we give a lot of benefit of the doubt to. And then there's another group of people we give a lot of benefit of the doubt to, and that is family. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, they're family. That's just grandpa. He's a little weird. It's grandpa. He's a little racist. He's grandpa. He's a little murderous. Sure. You know, like there's just always we always give grandparents, old people, family, we give them a lot of birth. In fact, I've often thought, dang, man, who talks to you like that? Only family can talk to you like that, right? Like, how many times have I said, check yourself? Oh, no, you don't have to check yourself. Your family. You can say whatever mad thing you can. You can act like a dumb child in front of adults, as an adult in front of adults, because it's family, right? And I think that kind of wide berth allows for this specific kind of horror to creep in. And so this movie is pretty astounding there. And I think, so here's the interesting thing. The director, I don't want to murder his name every single time I say it. So the director said he made 3 cuts. He made one that is comedy, and he made one that is horror, and then he made one that's in between. And the one that everybody ended up watching is the one that's in between.
Oh, wow.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and I think, but here's a moment of horror that we can all identify with as children.
Being touched by an elderly person.
Being touched by an elderly person, sort of against your will, a little brusquely, right? Pinching the cheek.
Unbidden.
What sort of insanity is cheek pinching?
Testing the ripeness of the child.
Right? Yeah. It's like you're a piece of meat. And in this particular shot, and of course folks at home can't see it, who are listening, you can't see it, but certainly the thumb is a little bit dirty, the hand is definitely old, and the kid is definitely uncomfortable, right? Yeah. We have all experienced that moment of horror.
Yes.
And yet we've never really identified it as a moment of horror. I think that makes this movie so incredibly smart. And here's a moment of Nana acting up, right, with foaming at the mouth, quite literally foaming at the mouth. And during a game of Yahtzee, which the game of Yahtzee in this movie is just again. Is there anything more psychotic than playing board games with your family? Does anything reveal more violent tendencies and more irrational behavior?
The double crosses.
Yes. It is. It's literally Game of Thrones with families when you're playing board games. So I feel like this movie in particular catches all of those dynamics and turns them on their head. And goes straight for the jugular by giving you that plot twist when you find out that's not Nana and Pop. That's really crazy killer old folks.
Well, and the children are in this position. There's such a strange dynamic between kids and
let's just say that it's done in found footage style, and the kids are brilliant actors.
The kids are
really great actors.
The grandparents are.
The grandparents are brilliant. Yeah.
The idea that as a kid, you're still a rough draft. You know, you're still becoming whoever you are. And the grandparents are looking at you as the shitty job that the parents are doing. Even if they like you. They're like, this could be done better. If this kid were under my influence, it would be much, much better. And you're put in the position of, you know, respect your elders, do what they tell you, be of service to them if you can. And to have never met them, to go into that situation cold and have them being that cat shit crazy from the get-go.
Mike, I do have to say,
Yeah.
cat shit is far crazier than bat shit.
It
That is,
really is.
It
is.
truly is. It truly is. That's
And,
a disturbing term.
Again, going back to just seeing the preview for it, I was like, I'm already fucking terrified for these children so much. And then when you get into the actual film and see what a dynamite fucking job the grandparents do as nutty motherfuckers, it's, if you guys haven't seen it, and I don't know why you'd be watching at this point, I assume you have by now, but it's one of those movies that endures past Halloween to well into the holidays.
Yeah, it does have a very Thanksgiving vibe.
Frightening for that, you know.
Yeah. Anytime old people come to visit, this is a good reminder of just kind of cut them some slack, but not too much slack.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. That was and by the way, everybody, go watch it. It's the found footage style, so there's like not that kind of like soundtrack thing that the director's done in the past, and he put himself out there, and it paid off for him. I think he put in $5 million and it made like $100 million, and it feels redemptive in a way that I think was important for the director and for everybody. What's up, Brassy?
Would you consider this film or cinema?
Oh, this is a movie.
Okay.
It's a damn good movie.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to the next movie, which is The Fog from 1980. Again, that magical year for horror movies. All right, here we go.
John Carpenter's The Fog.
This is KB Antonio Bay. Stevie Wayne here, and let me be the first to wish Antonio Bay a happy birthday. We're 100 years old today, and keep a watch out for that fog bank heading in from the east.
100 years ago, between midnight and 1, something unknown came out of the fog. Now it has returned.
Oh, Jesus.
100 years ago, between midnight and 1, something unnatural came out of the fog. Now it has returned. 100 years ago, between midnight and 1, something evil came out of the fog. Now it has returned.
Who's there?
The Fog.
Antonio Bay has a curse on it. We're all cursed. Some water got in here, but something awful cold did.
I think I'll go to Vancouver now.
Where's the fog now?
Well, it should be right outside my door now.
Oh, there's something different about this fog. Dan, stay away from the door! Someone listen to me!
Get inside and lock your doors. Close your windows. There's something in the fog. Stay away from the fog. From the creator of Halloween, the ultimate experience in terror and suspense. John Carpenter's The Fog, starring Adrienne Barbeau, Jamie Lee Curtis, John Houseman, Janet Leigh as Kathy Williams, and Hal Holbrook as Father Malone. The Fog. What you can't see won't hurt you. It will kill you. Between midnight and 1, it will find you.
Oh, man.
More
Wow.
horror icons than you can shake a stick at.
Yeah, I mean, you don't generally think of Hal Holbrook as a horror icon, but certainly...
Yeah. It opens with it as a traditional ghost story, campfire ghost story, being told by John Houseman, who told the most effective ghost story of all fucking time. And it just keeps going from there. It just gets better and better. It's not a big gore fest, even though it's Carpenter. It's not a lot of jump scares, even though it's Carpenter. But it's very, very moody and very. I would not do any sort of psychedelics before watching this movie, because that you are in for a bad time if you do anything like that. But since the theme of the week, the reason I chose this movie for the surprise ending is because it's a tale of restorative justice. And it's these lepers that were trying to start a colony 100 years ago. They got fucked out of their gold and their funds to do it by these people that were starting up their own town. They were like, fuck those lepers, they're going to die anyway, we're going to do our own thing. And so they start their own town, leaving the lepers.
History has never been kind to lepers, has it?
No, no, it just really hasn't. And so 100 years later, on the big anniversary, while everyone's patting themselves on the back, the lepers finally decide, fuck those guys, we're coming back. And man, are they creepy as fuck. They're hardly seen in the film. The mist itself is the main character.
It's the conduit for the terror.
Them, yeah. But when they finally arrive, they've been built up so much that you're expecting them to just be disappointing. But they fit very, very well into the world that's been built as an unstoppable force. And I think it was probably budgetary constraint. I don't know for sure. But they made the choice of having only Captain Blake having glowing red eyes. Okay. The rest of them are there, but they're all kind of like portrayed as mindless. And he's the only one that seems like you might have a chance of reasoning with him. And in fact, they do. And in the ending, Holbrook is the last townsmember left of the original founders that fucked them over. And he literally tries to make amends and gives them back their gold. And when he does that, it all stops.
Whoa, tax the church.
Yeah. And then what makes it a twist, though, is that you think, oh, good. It all worked out for the best. The lepers are happy or what have you in their graves. The town is going to be fine. Adrienne Barbeau and her kid are going to be okay. And then Hal Holbrook, I think, makes the fatal mistake of doing the math and going, there were 6 founders, 5 of which had been punished, and he had returned the gold. So that kind of got him off the hook. But the very final moment of the movie is Captain Blake returning and slicing him in half. And it cuts away just as he gets slashed right into the credits. And so it's like, you can redeem yourself. Still, you're going to pay for whatever the fuck you did.
And, I mean, that last minute grab, that last minute slash, that last minute, like, oh! It's such a classic horror movie, like trope. Like, it's so... I mean, I literally... Oh, God, I'm so embarrassed. I let out... Have you guys heard yourselves scream recently? I've screamed twice, like legitimately screamed twice in the last month.
Wow.
And it's very disconcerting. The first time I screamed was a spider, a legit spider about the size of a quarter, landed on my shoulder. I opened the door and a spider fell on my shoulder. big hairy spider, and I let out, like a scream, like an actual scream of terror.
Yeah.
And for a man in his 40s to let loose a scream of terror, it's a disconcerting sound for everybody involved. You don't hear like, "Ah!" right? Like it's very weird. It's not what you
the
want.
older you get, the closer any scream like that is to being the last thing you do. So like it's very disturbing.
I had two. I had that one, and then I'm embarrassed to say, Friday the 13th, I'd forgotten that when she's sitting on the boat, he comes up and grabs her at the very end, and he did that, and it caught me off guard, and I was very like, "Ah!" And my wife was just like, "God, dude, stop it."
How old is this movie? What do you like?
Yeah, I know. It was very embarrassing.
Well,
but if you haven't seen it though in a long time, it's not just shocking what he does. The way it's filmed is perfect because it goes into a weird sort of slow-mo.
It does. It's horrifying.
Dream time. It's dream time.
It is dream time.
And you see, you get a real good look at his mug while that's going on.
Yeah. You're just like, what is going on? Yeah, what is happening?
And man, this makes me think there is a great moment in Freddy versus Jason where I don't know if you guys have seen it recently at all, but the kids that realize they're in a turf war between Jason and Freddy realize that Jason is kind of their best weapon. And so they put him into a dream state, and you get to see what Jason dreams about.
Oh.
And it's all about him, all these kids fucking and smoking up and doing all sorts of shit while he's drowning. And there's a brilliant shot where they pull back, and it's that same fucking kid from that end scene flailing in the water. And they pull back just far enough where you see two camp counselors banging against a cabin. And then, sure enough, one of them turns around and it's Robert Englund. And he just kind of winks at the camera. And I was like, that is so fucking fantastic. It's worth all the shitty movies in between to get to that moment.
Wow.
Whoa.
I talk about a twist.
Bonus twist.
Yeah.
Bonus cut.
Yeah. That's pretty amazing. And it does speak to another trope in horror that we're about to kind of get into here, and that is the idea of like, why the woods? Why camp?
Yeah.
Right? Like why camp? What is it about that space? I think like they're all right, Brassy. Let's why don't we do this? Why don't we watch?
Because I want to talk about this. Yeah.
Okay. So why don't we watch then the clip from Sleepaway Camp, and then we'll discuss why the woods.
1983. Good luck, everybody.
Good luck, everybody.
Here we go, sir.
All right.
Dear Mom and Dad, I've been at a sleepaway camp for almost 3 weeks. And I'm getting very scared.
Welcome to Sleepaway Camp. Someone is watching you.
Hey, Baba, reload!
Someone is waiting for you. Someone wants to scare you to death. Sleepaway Camp. You won't be coming home.
All right.
That's a good old-fashioned grindhouse trailer,
Yeah, it doesn't give anything away other than many people are going to die brutal deaths.
It's lying by omission.
Two thumbs up to that, right? Like 2 thumbs up to that kind of trailer. Like you think about the previous trailers that we have, and there's a lot of anxiety building in these. The trailer we just saw for Sleepaway Camp is just like no.
It all makes sense later.
I bet you they cut the trailer before the movie was even done. I bet you they were just like, "Hey, you get it, you get it, you get it." Not. You're halfway there. Just enjoy.
All right. Well, before we get into like this movie itself, let's talk a little bit about the woods and the psychological role of the woods, right? So, I mean, I think we can all basically surmise that our ancestors considered the woods a space of death and the unknown, where magic happened, right? Like in Shakespeare and mythology, you walk into the woods, that's the realm of fairies, that's the world of like wolves, that's the world of the unknown and death and magic, right?
Untouched by man.
Untouched by man. All right. So definitely the woods holds a place of terror in our ape brains, where we're just like, if we go there, we're more likely to get eaten by something we don't know than when we're out here, where like we can look in the plains and like if we stand on this rock, we can see everything around us, right? Whereas in the woods, you can stand on a rock and all you see is other trees. So I think that has a lot to do with it. But Bress, talk to us about the woods in this specific place.
Well, I think it's just a basic carryover from the Grimm's brother fairy tale archetype. It's
sure.
You go into the woods and bad things happen to bad kids.
Oh, right, bad kids.
Yeah,
there's a lot of morality in all of this.
And in this particular film, it is loose. The juice is loose on morality.
Well, and also
right, I mean,
that idea of different tribes testing the children. That's how you come of age, is they put you out in the woods, leave you to your own devices, and if you survive, you're clearly favored by the gods or good enough that you belong in the community now.
Ooh, Mike Black with the double call back. Yeah, indeed, I agree. You can't deny that. Those elements are present as a rite of passage for youth. And sometimes that youth has to do with sexual development, facing your fear, shadow self, or shadow work, if you will. All the archetypes are there for traditional next level. When you level up in life, you have to go through a terrible tribulation, like the hero's journey.
Yeah.
Or heroine's journey.
Right. All right. Brassy, talk us through the movie. Talk us through this movie, because I have to say that this movie is incredibly. I think it's very sexual.
You might be onto something else.
You're definitely leaving some good crumbs.
Yeah.
The listeners need to know that this is, again, hyper sexualized 1983 Lost Boys level horny DEFCON 5.
So talk us through the plot. Talk us through the plot.
Extreme Stefan voice. This movie has everything. Boy piles. There's inexplicably 3 or 4 examples where the director tells boys dogpile each other, and we're just going to film it.
Right.
With various states of undress over various like little hazings or little random bullying things, just boy piles. Number 2, you got to have that in it's a slasher movie must have. Number 2, sexual peer pressure by the shit ton. Number 3, the pedophile cook. A lot of pedophilia in this. A lot of unacceptable pedophilia in this. Oh, he gets it. Number 4, oversexed and overconfident teens. Very bold, very teen, very, very. His win song stays on your mind. Now, there is A+ cussing and cursing from these actors because they did not do the Beverly Hills 90210 thing where they cast 30-year-old people as high schoolers. These are actual kids playing their actual age. And the cussing, the rants, they just let the kids say whatever, and then they edited it in post. Those kids come out with some zingers. They go down swinging.
Yeah, I mean, if there's one thing that I've learned is like you cannot go head to head with anybody younger than 20 and win.
They'll serve you yourself.
They will. Like there's a sort of there's a cruelty to teenagers that is unfathomable by anyone who actually knows how difficult life can be, right? Like there's a moment where you're like, you know what, everybody's struggling. We should be somewhat kind to each other. Teenagers have not gone through that yet, and so they will cut you to the bone. and I think this film has a lot of that. In fact, I want to say that one of the kids in this movie was bullied in real life. In the actual one of the kids that gets bullied in the camp was actually bullied in real life during the filming of this movie.
Oh, shit.
So much so that that one of the guys who played a camp counselor had to come in and go like, "All right, kids, lay off of this kid." Because the dynamic was so teenage real.
Wow.
That
sucks.
Willie Cuskin is the name of the kid who plays one of the bullied kids who like IRL got bullied so hard that somebody had to intercede in his behalf.
Ooh.
Yeah.
In case anyone wants to bully him now you know his name. Billy Cuskin.
Another thing on the must-have list of teenage slasher films is famous father cameos. We have James Earl Jones' father in this. As like the camp janitor or overseer, site manager. And he sounds just like his son.
Oh wow.
We've got an extremely intense.
I have to empty the recycling.
Yeah. Well, he's trying to figure out all these deaths. There's 12 deaths in total. 12 kids turn up dead from start to finish in this film. There is a crazy, crazy, overdramatic movie score. The music score in this is jaw-dropping. It is so intense and way over the top. It's kind of its own character. All you need to do is start with that opening screenshot. That you're in for it. There is an interesting bonus point for Gay Panic and Blue Balls because this is a story about frustrated hormones. This wins an award. It's got to be a Deep Cuts award for this. Best strange line readings by any one particular performer. And we have to give that to a woman named Desiree Gould, who plays the mother figure of the star who's bullied in this movie as the star, the child. Their mother on screen gives Ed Wood level Plan 9 from Outer Space line reads. She's not in the same movie as anybody else, but her line reads really stand out. And then just like I think Twilight copied this from them, there is a baseball scene that goes on way too long. And much like Top Gun, playing with the boys vibes, very much like a musical montage of just watching very, very close to naked men playing baseball. Boys,
right? That's this scene right here.
Yeah, those two guys have so much clothes on compared to everyone else. It really is playing with the boys.
That should be the cover of the USC brochure.
Wow, down to the socks and everything.
Yeah, go Trojans.
And you know, I won't leave without saying my due part to the makeup effects department. You got to shout out to all the creative deaths and the amazing special effects. Everything was practical because they had, a budget of $17.50.
Yeah.
The man who did everything, the MVP of this film, Sleepaway Camp, is Edward French, the head lead effects director there. He's the guy that made the effects of people getting burnt, boiled, chopped off, everything. He did all the effects. He's brilliant.
And I think that's part of the best part of this whole film is that it gives you that wide variety of deaths that you start wanting in these movies, right? Really, that's what makes the Final Destination movies fun. Yeah. That's what makes all of the slasher movies fun. It's like, ooh, how are they going to die, right? It's not like, are they going to die? We know that if you show any sort of, like, if you're a person of color, if you have any sort of like interest in sports or in the opposite sex or at times even in the same sex, like if you show any sort of sexuality, If you show anything other than purity and chastity, you will die. And the question is, how will you die? So yeah,
Also,
I mean, and I think this movie really delivers with that.
Whatever your baggage is, how will it be served up to you?
Right.
You know, I think Freddy is probably the best at it.
Yeah, Freddy is definitely
taking your own psychological baggage and putting it back on you. But Michael Myers, Jason, all of the ones that were really big in that era had a way of doing that, of kind of killing you, but also putting a bow on your life in doing so, you know.
Yeah, and I think so. Brassy, talk us through this plot, because I feel like the plot is almost just a maniacal scream all the way to the end. So talk us through it.
Okay, so here come the spoilers.
All right.
This movie takes place around a young girl named Angela, and Angela would, by today's standards, be marked as neurodivergent. She's mute for much of the movie. She is ostracized by her peer group. She does not participate in social mores. She's really lost out there. Okay.
Yeah, played by Felissa Rose.
Yeah.
Felissa, right? And
Yeah.
she would go on to do basically like practically hundreds of horror films.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, she has a great little vibe there. She was very good in this role. It was not easy to ask these kids to express these things or be a part of, like, there's an attempted rape on her in the movie.
Yeah.
You can't really walk a child through that, but she was definitely a child when they shot it. So she was so there's a mysterious killer that knocks out 9 men and 3 women. So there's 12 dead bodies total in this film. At the end, the magic, what a twist, reveal is that Angela is back to get restorative justice from a boating accident that killed her sibling and her parents 12 years before. So basically a body a year. She gets her payment. But when she stands up with the last victim, it is revealed that Angela was raised as a girl against her will. She's actually the boy that survives in the family, and the boy's identity is suppressed, and he is called she all his life. So he has kind of all their life. So he has kind of a split personality kind of a thing going on, and that was triggered by a gay panic moment where he witnesses his father in a scandalous gay sexual situation. So there's a lot of very disturbing, heavy themes for young kids in this movie. So again, in 1983, no one was looking.
No.
They were just making these films for like probably $100,000 and putting it in the can and just devastating everybody for generations with this.
Yeah.
The reveal freaked me up for years. I was
it's
really
a crying game style reveal. I mean, it's
brutal.
It's intense.
It's the last shot.
Yeah.
It's the last shot of it. You're just left there. No recovery time. No, you're not. You're literally left to deal.
Again, the last moment, right? I think that's the difference between like old school horror and new school horror. And it's something we just watched the Invisible Man last night. And one of the things that really kind of like shocked us was how there was no like leading up to the reveal. Like almost from moment one, you are faced with the Invisible Man. There's no like, and he did this and this happened and then he's the Invisible Man. It was like boom, you're walking in and they reference what happened to become the Invisible Man, but nobody wants to wait to see the Invisible Man.
Right.
You see the Invisible Man right away. I think that there's a lot of prologue and there's a lot of afterthoughts left on a lot of these movies where really like ending on that exclamation mark damages you in a way that I think is a lot more effective than having to explain, oh, and this happened afterwards, and later on they went on to lead fantastic, fulfilling lives. You don't get to know that. You don't get to know that.
No.
You're left with that shocking last moment, and you are to deal with the psychological effects of that. I think that's a lot more interesting, and also at that point, it was a little shocking.
And I think one of the first movies to kind of take what you said and spin it was The Fly, where you think the movie's over, the original Fly.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You think the film is over, they've killed the giant fly, it's all done, or he's killed himself. And then they're telling that, they're talking you down from that event.
Right. They're doing the postscript. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're like,
the
okay,
aftercare.
So, it's all done now, but then it's that final reveal of the small fly with the very human head on it and, about to be eaten by that spider. And it's so psychologically jarring to see that you're like, oh, of course that had to happen too if the other happened.
Right.
And that even the guy in the film is so weirded out by it that he's like, fuck this, and throws a rock on it rather than deal with this existing.
I think we all I think at the end of this movie, everybody wants to throw a rock on it too.
Yes.
Right? Brass, there's a lot to talk about here, but I think 1983, we are in the throes of the AIDS epidemic. And punishing gays and punishing queer folks is
that was a conversation happening on film.
Yeah, and I think in this movie, the very straightforward homoeroticism gets hammered. Every time somebody acts just a little bit like they might be enjoying rubbing up against each other's thighs, they get it in the neck, right?
Yeah. Again, it's a Grimm's fairy tale all over again for the 80s.
Yeah. And it goes back to Psycho and to Ed Gein and to real things that were happening in the world where people were suppressed and they did act out violently later because of it,
Right, and so that's it, and I think that's an interesting trope of the sort of the queer, the gay, the trans, other abnormal, potentially violent, potentially that mercifully doesn't exist anymore. But you see where society sort of reinforced those things and really hammered down on that sort of that narrative. And in 1983, that is a narrative that was happening pretty hardcore. And I've heard folks, Brass, call this movie transphobic because a woman who is who starts off as who biologically is a man, is forced into sort of these gender roles, and the big reveal making it somebody who is prone to violence, right? Because they are, air quotes, unnatural. This is the reason for their violence. But obviously we know that's lunatic. That's more violent and more insane than the truth.
Right, because this is someone who didn't make a sexual choice to their identity, or who wasn't embracing what they were born as. This is someone who was shoved into it, who was suppressed, who was, denied what they were supposed to or wanted to be, and they were acting out violently. It manifests in that way because of it,
So is this actually transphobic, or is it like a statement piece that if you're not allowed to be your true self and you're forced into these gender binaries, then the result is a broken person who may commit 12 murders at a camp?
I can't speak to the filmmaker's foresight on any of that. All I can say is that is the message that I received from the film, And that seems to be the message of reality, of when you do that to people, watch the fuck out, because they're ticking time bombs. When you force them to be what they're not and say, bury it, whatever the fuck you are, bury it deep down, and we'll all just hope that it's never brought up again. Watch the fuck out.
Yeah. I think sorry, Brass, I just wanted to interject with you cannot have a director and a writer that writes scenes like this and not think to yourself that they're at least in touch with an understanding of gay culture and of the LGBT experience. You know, like it is chock full of that stuff. Oh, by the way, this is a picture of the young person.
So I've got it. Can you go back to this image? I got to walk
Yeah.
you through something right now. This is the moment of the reveal when we find out that this person stands up and they're built with boy parts, but their face is a girl.
Mm-hmm.
So what they did was they went up to this child and said, "Is it okay with your mom if we put a strap on for you?" And her mom was like, "No, we want another option, please." They said, "Okay, here's what we're going to do. We have this great special effects artist. Let's make a cast of her mask, run it in a very thin, like easy plaster, and then we'll ask a male person to put on her mask and stand up for that scene, and that's it." So this kid who stood up and showed his goods put on a girl's mask that looked just like her face, showed his junk, and took a paycheck and disappeared. Like he
Disappeared.
was
Nobody knows
never
who
heard
the
from
person
again.
was.
He's
Never
not
heard from
credited.
again. Not credited. Nothing. Yeah.
He's never come forward to this day that was him. So whatever
Yeah.
it was,
Unknown
he
junk.
didn't want to do it. Well, he was real drunk right before he had a
Yeah,
couple
they
beers.
said that it was a college student who insisted on being drunk for the moment.
He got cold feet. Let's put it like that.
Yeah.
But they got the shot. They got this incredible ending, and then they got us talking. What 83? It's almost 30 years, 40,
Yeah.
30 years later. We're talking about suppression of self, and we're talking about the woman who I said was giving Ed Wood line readings.
Mm-hmm.
She's the woman who forces that child to live as a girl.
Mm.
So we're talking Freudian stuff here.
Yeah.
We're talking, it's in some ways you could look at it and say, well, I don't think the director or the writer or anybody here on production had good intentions with their message. Because this is also the time when, like, cruising, Dog Day Afternoon, people,
Sure.
if you were gay, your character was destined for tragedy. That was just the absolute formula back then.
Mm-hmm.
But we can look at it with wise eyes and a little more of an opening
And a kinder heart.
We can look back on it. So we can't speak on what their intentions were. What I see in it now might have felt troubling in the moment, but I can find the silver lining, and hopefully other trans people can too.
Yeah. Well, it was a hell of a choice, and I have to say I was pumped that you picked it because talk about an ending where you're just like, wah!
Yeah.
And that was definitely like that. And I think both the endings that Mike and I chose, one is like, oh, which is mine, and Mike's is like, ah! And then yours is like throw the TV out, right? Like run around the room, kind of like stuff. So I'm glad we hit on that. And I also I do want to also like before we end this, I did want to just say that it is tough to jerk people around in movies. People don't like being surprised in life, and to be able to pull off a surprise ending and still have a career afterwards is a difficult thing. And I think that directors take a risk in doing that. And they take a risk in punching you in the gut and then running away. And I think that's a bold move, and nobody does it better or more than folks who direct horror. So I do think that's an important. What's up, Brassy?
One last piece about the director of Sleepaway Camp.
Yeah.
He put this movie out in 1983 and stopped directing, left the film industry. 20 years later, he produced a sequel, his own sequel to Sleepaway Camp, and completely sidelined and gutterballed the existing 2.5 sequels that were already made, Sleepaway Camp 2 and 3. There was a fourth one started and never made. So I consider that 2.5 sequels. He completely eschewed everything that happened, wrote completely over it, and gave this person a new timeline altogether 20 years after the original.
Wow.
So it must have
that's also
affected
somebody.
him.
Yeah, that's somebody figuring some stuff out.
Yeah, maybe so.
Yeah. Interesting. Wow, what a heavy flick, and what a great deep cut. All right. Well, so that does it for this edition. What are we doing next week? I don't even remember now.
I know we have a theme. We have a theme picked up, but I can't.
What's the
I can't
theme?
recall. I can't recall what
okay.
it is.
All right. Well, surprise theme next week. Is next week the week before? Is next week Halloween? No.
Yeah.
We've got.
Well, no,
it is.
not quite. Oh yeah. Well, next week is Halloween, but we have one last Sunday before Halloween.
Oh, one last Sunday before Halloween. Okay. So we will have one more, and then it's Halloween. But and Mr. Dan Dingman will be joining us once more, for better or for worse. For now, thank you all so much for an amazing deep cuts, great 3 flicks, and we'll see you all next week.
Thank
Bye,
you so
all.
much. Bye, Al.